Two deadly bombings in Turkey killing more than 80 people. Nearly 200 are wounded. Now the search for answers, including who did this and why. Days of violence between Palestinians and Israelis will have the latest from Jerusalem. Plus, will Joe Biden run for president of the United States? He could decide that this weekend. Hello, I'm Lynda Kinkade, and this is CNN Newsroom. Thanks for joining us. It's 8 p.m. in Ankara, Turkey, where authorities are piecing together what happened in a double bombing at a peace rally. Two blasts killed at least 86 people at the capital's main train station. 186 others were wounded. The Prime Minister has declared 3 days of national mourning. He says two suicide bombers appear to have carried out the attack, but no one has claimed responsibility. Let's go now to Simon Waldman. He's a lecturer in Middle East and Mediterranean Studies at King's College in London. Thanks very much for being with us. Firstly, just give us your reaction to this attack.
Well, first of all, let me express my condolences to the victims and the victims' family of this terrible, terrible attack, and also my solidarity to the Turkish people. This is a tragedy. It's probably the largest attack against the civilian population in Turkey for many, many years. And now, as you mentioned, it's a search for answers. Who did this? Who was responsible? And indeed, why?
Stay with us, Simon. We're just going to bring in Arwa Damon, who joins us live from Ankara. And I understand you're outside the hospital. Obviously, a lot of people are probably in shock there. What's the feeling?
Everybody is in shock here. It's very somber at this stage. A lot of those who are around us are actually waiting to retrieve the bodies of their dead loved ones killed in this attack. The death toll now standing at least 86 killed. The Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu calling for 3 days of mourning, also saying that this was the work of two suicide bombers, going on to add that the Turkish intelligence apparatus had received intelligence that some suicide bombers, according to the Prime Minister, were going to be trying to come into Turkey from northern Iraq. He did also say, without going into too many specifics, that the authorities had caught two other suicide bombers. He said one here in Ankara, the other in Istanbul, but clearly this calling into question just how secure the country actually is, despite a fairly intense crackdown that has been taking place for quite some time now. This explosion happening at a peace rally. People who had come together, around 14,000 at the time of the explosion, 10 o'clock in the morning, to rally for peace between the government and the Kurdish separatists, the PKK, ending in this horrific tragedy. The Prime Minister also calling for the country to try to stand together. A lot of concern about inflammatory rhetoric, a lot of concern too that this is only going to further polarize the already polarized Turkish society between the president's AKP party, Recep Tayyip Erdogan's AKP party, and various other opposition groups at this stage. So a lot of sorrow here on this day, and of course a lot of concern.
Now we're just looking at some live pictures of the scene where the blast happened. Clearly there's a lot of security present now. Do authorities have any indication that this may have been linked to ISIS?
Well, they're speculating. There's a number of possible groups that the Prime Minister said could be behind this. One was ISIS, the other was the Kurdish separatist group, the PKK, and some other various different offshoots that have carried out violent acts in the past. But it's difficult to say that at this stage. No one has come out and claimed responsibility for this attack. The last attack that took place in Turkey happened in the town of Suruc, very close to the Syrian border. That took place over the summer. There, the government did blame ISIS, although ISIS itself never took responsibility. It's all speculation at this stage. This is a country that has, in the recent months, launched two assaults on terrorism, one against ISIS. Turkey, for the first time, launching airstrikes and other strikes against ISIS positions inside Syria, following that attack that happened in Suruç over the summer, but also, effectively ending a ceasefire with the PKK at around the same time too, after the Suruç bombing, going after them inside Turkey, where some pretty fierce clashes have taken place, but also launching bombing campaigns against their hideouts in northern Iraq. So it's difficult to tell exactly who may have been responsible for this at this stage, but a lot of blame being pointed towards, according to the government, a number of different terrorist organizations.
And the parliamentary elections are due to be held in about 3 weeks from now. Is that still going to go ahead as planned?
It is as of now, and that has also been, a key issue here. Politicizing this violence. You have the Prime Minister coming out and calling for the country to stay together, saying that this was an attack against the Turkish state, but you have one of the main pro-Kurdish opposition party leaders coming out and saying that the state is in fact responsible for this violence. So despite the efforts by some to try to keep politics out of it, this is already a political issue, and the country has been very sharply polarized for quite some time now, which is why there is concern that perhaps there could be more violence leading up to these elections. And among those who were killed today is one candidate for parliament that is part of one of these, the key opposition party, the pro-Kurdish HDP party. She was killed in this attack. So, a lot of emotions here, understandably, of course, but a lot of, concern that those emotions, that anger could somehow translate into further polarizing this country and potentially, possibly, into more violence.
Okay, Arwa Damon, outside the hospital where many people are being treated after that bombing. Thank you very much. We're going to go back to Simon Waldman now. He's a lecturer in Middle East and Mediterranean Studies at King's College in London. Simon, obviously, Turkey sat on the sidelines of the Syrian war for so long and only recently this year became involved. Do you think that has something to do with these attacks?
Well, it's a significant possibility. As your reporter aptly noted, at the moment there hasn't been a claim of responsibility by any particular group, and there's still an ongoing investigation as to who was involved in this. One of the top suspects would be, of course, ISIS, and ISIS would have really two reasons for having this particular attack. One, this was a peace rally, but present were their head their pair, the HDP, which is very much a Kurdish-oriented party, although it also has a liberal left political platform as well. And it's the HDP which has really been standing in solidarity with the Kurdish people in Syria. And at the same time, there is also the animosity that ISIS now has towards Turkey, because Turkey has been increasingly involved in attacks against ISIS, especially using allowing its bases to be used by coalition forces. So, in terms of who's top of the list of suspects, I would put that down as ISIS, but I wouldn't rule out any other group at this stage.
Just give us a sense of the political and the economic and the security climate right now in Turkey.
Well, in Turkey, there is, as you know, forthcoming elections coming in 3 weeks. And these are a rerun of elections that took place in June. Now, these elections were inconclusive in that there was no one party that had an overall majority, and coalition talks really failed to take place, necessitating these new elections in November. Over the last few years, especially, Turkey has been increasingly politically divided. Divided between Turks and Kurds, between secularists and those who are more conservative. And what's at stake in the elections is essentially all these different factors coming together. There is a question of a change of the constitution to change it into a more of a presidential system, which will give additional powers to the current president of the republic. So all of these things are mattering right now in terms of the forthcoming elections. And of course, some of these problems have broken up into violence. There have been attacks on journalists, on the Hürriyet newspaper. There have been many attacks against the HDP during its election campaigns. We're talking about over the course of the election campaign before June, all the way up until present, over 100 attacks against the HDP. And in addition to that, the Turkish state is waging a war against the PKK, the Kurdistan Workers' Party, considered by the Turkish Republic and many Western states to be a terrorist organization. And the elections that are taking place are in the context of all these different conflicts going on in Turkish society.
Okay, Simon Waldman, we appreciate your analysis. Thanks very much for joining us today.